All right.
Live.
Going to call to order tonight's February 16th study session. Roll call, please.
Bob Burleson.
Yes.
Yolanda Cardona
She
is
had-
absent.
Absent, yeah.
John Gill.
Here.
Bob Valois.
Here.
Jason Vlasic.
Here.
John Kennedy.
Here.
Adam Decker.
Here.
Ken Kraus.
Here.
Brian Blazak.
Present.
All right. First on the agenda, we have Walnut Creek North Addition, Lot 1 and 2. This is for proposed preliminary primary replat of Ravenwood Business Center, Phase 2, Lots 8, 9, and 10, for a two-lot subdivision. Name,
Hey, and gentlemen.
how are you, sir?
Alan from Taringa Surveying.
Yes, sir. So if you want to give the board a little brief description.
Sure. So there's 3 existing lots in Ravenwood, and the petitioners desired to, the southern part of it, to split the middle lot and then create 2 lots out of 3 in order to put a Planet Fitness on the southern one, and then vacant for now for the north one.
Very good. Questions, comments from the board?
I do also have the owner here as well, if you want to speak to him.
I think how it's now split, you meet our minimum acreage, so that was
Yeah.
good, so.
Yeah, it
What-
actually makes the existing ones larger, obviously.
Because they're each about 2.6 acres.
Yeah.
Did you get paperwork in this?
Yeah, exactly.
Here.
2.6.
I might have taken yours, I apologize.
No, it's fine.
The
Ken, have
south
you,
lot
Ken,
is-
have you gotten all the documentation you need?
Well, I just got this from Sergio just this week, so I haven't
Okay.
had a chance to look at it. But one of the things I'll need are, let's see, everything's existing, right? The storm's already there, the detention's across the street.
Yeah, because this is,
So this looks more like a 2-lot into one thing like we've been doing. I'll take a look at it. If I have any checklist items that need to be checked off, I'll email it to you.
Sure.
okay. Yeah, the only question we had at the first time is they split it up where one of the lots were under 2 acres.
Right.
And now they're just splitting it in half, so. All right, any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Just let's make sure Ken gets all his information, so we're ready to rock and roll. Awesome. All right, next on the agenda, we have Planet Fitness. This is a proposed developmental site plan for an 18,000 square feet building on Lot 1 of what they're subdividing. So if you would give your name and introduction on the project, please.
Yes, Todd Riling Design and Consulting. On behalf of my client, we're proposing the 18,000 square foot Planet Fitness at Earl and 101st. Roughly 183 parking spaces. Utilities will tie in, existing utilities along Earl for water and sewer, sanitary sewer that is. And then storm sewer will be collected in the parking lot, tie into the existing storm sewer on Earl Drive. It eventually goes into existing detention pond that's already in place. So I'll entertain any questions the board may have for me.
So based on your current plan layout, is there any zoning ordinance that you're not meeting?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Any waivers that you'll be requesting?
No.
This is in our TIF district, correct? This is on our US 231 overlay district, right?
It's in the 41 overlay district.
Or, I'm sorry, 41 overlay
That's
district,
correct.
okay,
Yes.
okay.
And as far as I know, we're meeting everything in that overlay district.
That is great news.
Are there sidewalks on this?
There's not any, there's sidewalk in front, but it wouldn't tie to anything because there's no sidewalks along that area at all.
So that would be a waiver on the 2 sides that doesn't have
Okay, well,
it?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, we wouldn't be able to tie to anything.
Right.
So,
I don't think
just so
it's-
you're hit,
Okay.
I know your new, board, this board has taken a conscious effort to avoid any future waivers. We understand it doesn't tie in anywhere, but that got us into the problem we're in right now where we don't have any sidewalks.
Okay?
So whether it's, we've made people do it for 100 feet and it ties
Sure,
them
I
in.
mean,
So,
we
so-
can add them, no big deal.
okay, I just
We
wanted,
could-
that's why when you
If the
said.
board requires it, we could add sidewalks in this case, not a problem. So,
Yeah, that one has been one of our big issues within the town because we're growing and unfortunately people have to walk on streets. So
Completely
we
understand
appreciate
that.
you.
would that be on all three sides of the property then? For the sidewalk? Because I know it butts to, to industrial in the rear of us, and then to the south of us, it's industrial
The
zoning.
whole thing is industrial, right?
Well, we're actually gonna see two,
Yeah.
but,
It's all
I mean, in
commercial
this,
or industrial.
There's no
back.
sidewalks back there at all.
Yeah, but, okay, so now this lot is surrounded by, so they're breaking it up into two lots. It's circled by streets, so why, I mean, I understand it's an island, but why don't we just at least have some sidewalks? If it's a Planet Fitness, people might want to walk outside, let's keep them on the sidewalk. At least on that side.
They're leading to nowhere. That's all I'm saying.
I-
Is that they're leading
No,
to
no,
nowhere.
that is a logical comment, but if not, well, I mean, there's so many gaps in our system that, so.
I mean, I will tell you that this lot, that's the reason why I asked about all three sides of the property. I mean, it'd be very, very tough to meet ADA as far as going up 101st, because there's a significant slope there like that. So, I mean, you're talking about benching that sidewalk out a little bit. So it would be tough, and especially we have that entrance, that one entrance that we have off of 101st is probably like at a 7%, almost 8% slope across there like that. So that's the reason why I ask you that. And maybe, like I said, even if we can compromise and maybe even doing something just out front, the sidewalk along Earl. Again, it's not tying anything, of course, but, I mean, I think we'd be willing to entertain that.
Yeah, he does have a point about the ADA requirements. Going up 101st place at a 7 to 8% grade is not going to meet the ADA requirements, and they can't do a whole lot about it.
I would hate to tell somebody that we couldn't do ADA because of development, it was too hard for them to do it, that now someone who's handicapped now doesn't have access. I understand. I'm on my soapbox. I'm making it a hypothetical situation. But it's something, why don't you guys look at it?
What's the
If
max,
it's- if it's a-
8%?
If it's a serious
I think it's
hardship,
8%.
we'll reconsider, I guess, but
Yeah, it's 8% on ramps, but on longitude,
For 20 feet, though.
it's one.
But you go 5% anywhere you want to go 5% at.
Yeah,
But when you start getting into 8% like that, you have to bench it out, which for 5 foot, you have to have a landing area for
yeah, usually
8.33.
1 foot per 20 feet is a standard, 1 foot of rise for 20 feet in length.
look at it,
might be
please.
something
Or,
to look at.
I mean, it's the whole board's decision, but if you could at least attempt to see what you could do, and if it's a extreme hardship, bring it back to this board, and then this board can make a decision.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
Ken, what do you need?
Drainage calculations on sizing the storm sewers and collecting.
Yeah, they're on that, they're on them sheets. Should be.
All right, I'll take a look at them.
Right there on that sheet, that's all the storm sewer
Yeah.
calcs as far as any of the storm sewer design.
You see, you do have some design information on here. So I'll take a look at it.
Sure.
All right. If there's no other questions for the gentleman, we'll see you in 2 weeks, or a couple
Thank you.
weeks. Thank you.
Now, how's that gonna work, John? Do they have to get approval of Walnut Creek first before we can do a site plan
Sir,
review?
so we'll have to get approval of the subdivision first before we can do a site plan review. I believe that's the case.
I mean, I can still review it now, it's just that it wouldn't go into effect until secondary plat approval of the Walnut Creek.
Okay. And we'll confirm that with Sergio. Timing, how the replat and site plan works together.
Yeah, and Sergio is well aware of our time, like I said, we're trying to get open before the end of the year.
Can you speak to the microphone?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm gonna have you come up to the mic. No, we let you go, and then we're throwing out questions for you at the end.
Again, with these plan events, we do a lot of them all over the country like that. So with his franchise agreement like that, we need to be open by the end of this year. So timing is of importance for us at that to start getting construction started as soon as the weather breaks. We're going to try to start like that May timeframe, but we're trying to actually get started. So.
It always helps when you're not going outside our ordinances, so
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
perfect. So thank you, sir.
That's our timing on this, just to let you guys kind of know like that. So we'll definitely talk to Sergio and, we get things pushed through.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda, we got Lenning's 2, second edition. This is proposed preliminary primary replat of Artesian Wells, Plat D of Lot 6 for a 2-lot subdivision. Is there anyone here from Dale Lenting or ASLS?
I don't think
Seeing no one here. Going once. Anyone online? Twice? No. All right. Next on the agenda, Montegomre Estates. This is a proposed preliminary primary replat of Castle Rock Phase 1, lots 5 and 6.
Doug Reddick, DVG, representing the Montgomery family, who's basically combining 2 lots in Castle Rock into 1 lot. So it's a very large lot. It's like over 2 acres. After we combine the 2 smaller lots, again, it's Castle Rock, so all the improvements have been in the ground. So there's no engineering to speak of. All the detention was handled, but we did the original design. But yeah, the net acreage is just over 2 acres. There's a large conservation easement in the back because there's some wetlands back there. They could only really build in the first 175 feet of the property. So pretty straightforward.
Questions?
No, pretty straightforward.
And you come on March, or you're coming on March 2nd? Probably do a primary and secondary if everything's in order.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't think we've submitted a secondary plat to you yet,
I do not have a secondary plat.
so we might be just seeking primary at that
Okay.
one. But we've done all the advertising already, so the sign was posted today, I think.
Gotcha. Very good. All right, any questions for Doug?
Nope.
No, seeing none. Next on the agenda, we have Joliet Subdivision, proposed 1-lot subdivision at 10460 Joliet Street. I still can't believe I thought that was all wetlands back there. I know there's some, but
If you drive there now, you would really think that.
you should see my backyard. I slope and I'm all clay, and I got a lake
Everybody's,
out there.
everybody's clay here.
Again, Doug Reddick with DVG for representing Kurt Kropp, the owner of this property. We're calling it Hart Joliet Subdivision because it's simply at the northwest corner of Hart and Joliet. John, you kind of mentioned we have everything. We have wetlands, we have flood zone, we have floodway, but yet there's still some good high usable ground. So it's a tricky piece that's been sitting there forever. Kurt's dad owned it for years. His dad's passed away. Kurt has a desire to sell it. I don't know exactly. What he wants to do. He wants to market the property, but he knows he can't market it unless it's a platted lot and somebody can actually pull a building permit on it. And that's really why we're here. We want to clean up that part of it to get it platted, and then we'll figure out what will be put on it. But we know it's zoned industrial. It meets the requirements of, because the minimum lot size in industrial is 10 acres. This is a little over 11 acres for the lot. So we have a whole lot of frontage on Hart Street, a little bit of frontage on Joliet. But because of the ditch running through there and the floodplain associated with it and the even floodway and the wetlands, which are delineated on here as well, it just chews up a lot of the property. So we're here simply to request permission to plat the property, and site plan will come when they have a definite user for the property.
Questions or comments?
Nope.
This is zoned industrial, right?
It is. We're not changing the zoning. But the other thing that will come, that we're gonna ask for waivers on the sidewalk and curbs, because the road is already there. The road, as you all know, basically built on, I don't wanna call it swamp ground, but it is a problematic area for, Hart Street.
You must not
Probably
go
wouldn't be
there.
opposed to putting sidewalks along Joliet, all along Hart Street, we're in the floodway as well. So anything that we really can't do anything in the floodway without lots of permitting. Even the driveway that we're going to put in will have a small impact to the floodway. We're quite confident we can get that such a small area permitted. But I was told by his attorney to make sure I mentioned that early on, that everybody's aware of that. We will be seeking waivers for curbs and sidewalks, for sure along Hart Street.
I have one issue, it's just the road. With it being industrial, that Hart Street, I think we've paved twice since I've been in St. John, and that road, depending on what comes in there, that road's gonna have to be rebuilt.
Yeah, I
It's
believe
a
I
very
saw.
narrow road, and it's
I think I've seen wood piling coming up through
Yes.
the
yes.
pavement too, for the bridge.
Mm-hmm. And you're not gonna get any large trucks down there.
And that's not the intention. It's just for, yeah,
Yeah,
it's not, it's going to have to be a very light use, obviously.
okay.
So Doug, you're well aware of the sidewalk issue. The Preserve Cove was, we had one of your clients that, so, I mean, expressing the hardship, you gotta make a point at least. So, but Bob brings up a great point. We're putting in sidewalks to nowhere, but, if
Well,
there's
one thing-
opportunities to put sidewalks in, we need to consider it, so.
On this particular case, John, and I'm just going to be devil's advocate here, much of this Hart Street right-of-way is in a floodway, and
It all
many
is.
times it's underwater.
Mm-hmm.
And to
Okay.
put a sidewalk in,
You're promoting people to go
promoting
in,
people to
to
be
go in a flood.
walking through a floodway.
And that's all, I mean, I just need someone to make that argument, other than, well, we just don't want to put in sidewalks. That's what I'm trying to avoid, so.
Yeah, it's not that we don't want to. It's just the challenge is
Okay.
there. The floodway is there. It's a real thing.
And the gentleman before you made a logical, it's,
ADA, yep.
not the ADA, the incline and stuff like that. Just, there's got to be some sort of significant hardship, or at least mine. So, okay, perfect.
Any other questions?
Questions? Comments? Concerns? All right,
See you in a couple weeks.
see you in a couple weeks. Next, we have proposed subdivision for 54 single-family lots, RC1 PUD. If you can introduce yourself to the board and description.
Gladly, if I may, can I hand some things out?
You sure can.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Golf balls you got on lot 22, 23?
I have a few.
I asked him how many golf balls he had on lots 22, 23.
That is the driving one.
Now, isn't that number 8 coming up? Yeah, that's a par 5, right? All right, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's all
We're
great. It's all
we're
good.
talking about how many houses might get hit if we're on hole number 8, so.
It's me, all of them. Wild. I'm
All
Joe
right.
Lenahan with Altoff Homes. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Some of you know me. I've presented things here in the past. I know Chip has presented this project for Altoff Homes in the past. Unfortunately for me, Chip has taken a position with another company, so unfortunately you're stuck with me. But I am very, very glad to be here. So again, this is the Streamside community. I was in communication with Chip throughout this, so I understand some of the presentations that he's made and some of the comments. And I also watched the video of the last study session in November. So I understand, I hope that I understand the concerns, and I hope to be able to address some of those this evening. So a couple of the primary themes that I heard from that last meeting were that the lots that were being proposed were too narrow. Specifically, the 80-foot lots were too narrow, and also just sort of a general theme of, when there's a PUD and you're asking for something less than what the typical ordinance would be, what are we getting in return? And so I'd kind of like to present that to you tonight. So if I could just talk a little bit about why the PUD. I heard this discussion in the November study session. The project has about 5 acres of wetlands, and that plus the open spaces that we're proposing, which we think are going to be quite nice for the community, total about 30, little less than 37 acres. It's about 14% of the site. I'm sorry, 14% of the site. Wetlands, 36% open space. So that's one thing. And then there's several commitments that I'm going to go through with you tonight that we'd like to make for architectural purposes and other things that I think would justify this decision. So the first page that you have is just a color site plan. Some of the things I'd like to point out, we retained all the open spaces, all the paths that we've been proposing all along, paved paths, walking paths through all the open spaces. We've still got the playground towards the south end between 49 and 50. We'll do the overlook. Everything that we had presented before is the same, and I can answer questions about that. We've also kept the landscape buffers, the additional landscape buffers along White Oak. All those things are in here. One thing that I added was some additional open space south of Lot 1. And I can talk a little bit more about that when I get to the next site plan, but I just wanted to create a little bit of open space there as you go into Summerlin, as we make that connection to Summerlin to the west. But the biggest change that I mentioned is the lot sizes. So if you look at the second sheet that I handed out, you can see the lots dimensioned there. All lots are at least 90 feet wide on this plan that I've submitted. The last plan had 62 lots, as I recall. Yes, that's correct. So we reduced the number of lots, made them wider, and you can see that open space south of Lot 1 that I added. And then what I did is I added some 100-foot lots as well. And the idea was to sort of buffer from Summerlin. I heard a comment about how Summerlin had 100-foot lots. And it just made sense to me that the lots would maybe transition from the 100-foot on the west as you move to the east to the double frontage lots on White Oak and that. So I kind of made that change. Just some statistics, 26% of the lots are 100-foot wide, and then another 17 feet are greater than 90, so between 90 and 100. So I mentioned the 100-foot lots are sort of the transition from Summerlin to White Oak. And we did reduce those number of units. One thing I wanted to point out when I was reviewing this before I came, my land planner noted a 10-foot side yard. We're actually maintaining the 8-foot side yard. I just want to point that out. If you look at the top right corner of the dimension site plan, it says 10 feet. We're keeping it at 8. That's just a mistake. A couple other things I'll mention here. If you go to the next page, you'll see a list of architectural requirements, and I'll just kind of run through these quickly. A lot of these are what your ordinance already requires, but we would actually put all of these things and document them in a PUD ordinance. So the minimum ranch would be 1,900 square foot, 2,400 on the 2-story. You can see we have no bi-level, tri-level, or quad homes. We'd put that in the covenants and the PUD. We have the minimum roof pitch at 612. And then, sometimes you have craftsman-style elevations that might have a dormer or a shed roof that's slightly lower than that, but the main roofs would all be at least 612. Exterior siding. We're committing to having no vinyl siding on the homes. We use, when we replace a vinyl siding, we use something called light LP Smart Side, which is similar to like a fiber cement. You've probably heard people say hardy plank and that. I brought a few samples. I've got 3 colors here. I got a bunch more colors in the back if you'd like to see them after the meeting, but I was just going to kind of hand these around. This is the siding material that we would be committed to. Masonry. So your ordinance doesn't require like this kind of siding or doesn't require masonry. We'd be committing to these things. So all the homes would have an absolute minimum amount of masonry on them, some amount of masonry. None of the homes would have no masonry, in other words. And then I could make an additional commitment that at least half the homes would have a minimum of 30% masonry on the front. Now, I attached 2 elevations, just 2 samples of our homes to the back of this. We've got dozens of them, but just to give you an idea, the second elevation, the very back elevation, would be what's considered kind of a knee wall level of masonry. All of the homes would, at a minimum, have a knee wall level of masonry. And then the 2-story home that I've showed you here, that particular home calculates to 39% masonry. So I'm saying half the homes would have at least 30%. You can see what 39% looks like on a 2-story. We have homes that have much more masonry than that. We have multiple floor plans with multiple elevations with multiple masonry levels, but I just wanted to set a bare minimum of what you would see there in the PUD. We would encourage 3-car and extended garages, and the lots certainly have the width for that. We're finding more and more that people choose those anyway. Homes that back up to or are visible from 109th and from White Oak. So in this case, I'm referring to lots like 9, 10, 11, 14 through 20, you know, and then wrapping all the way around. Those lots that have what I call double frontage or have views of the rear of the homes, at a minimum would be required to have a feature on the home that breaks up the back of the home. We'll call them a bump out. That's the way we refer to them around the office. And that would be things like our sunroom, our breakfast nook, morning room. We have great room extensions on some of the homes. And we also have like an outdoor living option on many of our homes, which is kind of like a covered patio. The point here being that there's an architectural feature on the rear of the home for those that are most visible from the exterior roads. We would require the rear yard fencing in the community to be aluminum or wrought iron style. We wouldn't allow any wood or PVC fencing just to create a little bit more of a higher end feel. Nothing wrong with PVC, but we were thinking for this community we would kind of step it up a little bit. There'd be no above ground pools allowed per the covenants in the PUD. We can commit to front and side yards being sodded, and the front yards would require an irrigation system. And I also provided kind of the self-imposed monotony standards that we have, which I believe exceed your ordinance. You have monotony standards in your ordinance. I believe these exceed that, but just wanted to point those out. This particular community has 54 lots, and we've got dozens and dozens of homes, so I don't anticipate an issue, but just kind of wanted to point that out as well. So I'm hoping that this does address some of the concerns.
You could have.
Glad to take any questions, comments, talk about anything you'd like.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments?
What's the width of the outlot F that you have right behind one and in between 1 and 40?
In between lot 1, oh,
Right where that one house will be facing.
on
the
here it
yard.
looks like a little less than 20 feet. That outlot actually is on the Summerlin
Okay.
plat, not on this plat.
So-
Yeah, that's existing to the west.
So I'm going to, I appreciate
Sir.
renovations you made, revisions you made. If you saw the November, you might have saw that I was a little short, because his comment, Chip's comment was, well, we're asking for a PUD because we want 80-foot lots.
I
There
understand.
was no other rhyme or reason. What you're extending the width of the lot, but now I'm looking at the depth of the lot. So some of the lots, let's go with one, because at one time there was 3 lots up along Summerlin Estate. So you have 100-foot wide, great, but it's 140 deep.
Correct.
So now you're going to have a 30-foot rear yard setback. You're going to have a house that's potentially 80 feet deep, so that's 110 feet. So the rear of the house is only going to be 30 feet from the property line.
So I believe we're looking at, it's not much, but I think it's a 40-foot rear. I think we were proposing 30-foot front, 40-foot rear, I thought.
So, I mean,
It's only 10 more feet, but I understand, yeah.
some of these lots, like, it's 90-foot wide and it's 1,200 square feet. So I would like to see what the depths are.
They're all 140. Well, the 140 is minimum.
140 is minimum.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And they're all probably pretty close to that.
So especially those 1, 2 that butt up, I just, 40 feet from someone's side yard is, and then, just something we need to consider, we need to look at, in my opinion, and then what is our side yard setback for, R2?
R1 is 10, but R2 is 8.
It is 8,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Just something we need to look at.
And I know everybody, kind of focuses on the 8 or 10 foot side yard setback, but when you get to the bigger lots like this, and depending on the product you put on it, a lot of times they don't even, like in Summerlin, they got 30-foot side yards even though they have a 10-foot minimum. And it's because, when the house is, if you put a 50-foot wide lot on a 90-foot, a 50-foot wide house on a 90-foot lot, you're going to have 20 on each side anyway, even though you're saying it's a 8-foot minimum.
Right. They're not necessarily
Not
building
necessarily,
No,
it's
no, no.
not touching
Building
all the
right up to that
minimums.
line.
They won't be at all. I mean, that's a really wide house.
Right.
So it's pretty uncommon to see that, yeah.
Will you have a deacceleration lane on White Oak?
Yes, I'm assuming that we would be doing, when we get to the primary plat stage, I mean, if I need to address that in the PUD, I can, but I'm assuming we would have to do all the typical traffic improvements.
Yeah, I don't think we need a dedicated left turn lane here, but I think a decel XL lane
Yeah.
would be good.
And this existing nature area, is there gonna be an HOA? Is there gonna be, who's maintaining?
Everything will be, well, the roads would be public, of course, and the utilities, but every green space would be privately maintained by the HOA. All the hardscapes that we're installing in the parks and all of that would be HOA.
Is that a walking path you have run through all that?
Yes.
Is it gonna be paved?
More than likely, the southern park we would not pave, but we will very likely, what we would like to do is pave at a minimum the path that starts at White Oak and extends behind lots 21 and 20. You know, the issue here is that you really can't cross that wetland that's right along 109th. And so what we're doing here is we're providing a sidewalk or paved path along the west side of White Oak heading south. And we've talked to the homeowner that lives there, and we believe we can get them to allow that as well. That's not 100% secure, but that is our intent, is to build that down and then come into our community and go out to the northwest corner of our subdivision with a paved path. So the path on the north side, if you will, all along here, that would all be paved.
Okay.
Likely, we would end up paving this, maybe not as wide, but it also could be like a gravel or acrolite path as well.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Will there be a sidewalk on 109th?
Well, I've heard, and I've been here for past meetings, it sounds like I'd be requesting a waiver. I mean, there's a wetland that goes right up to there. It really can't be done. I mean, I will be doing one from the wetland to the west, if you can see where the path,
You couldn't put a path through the wetland, elevated, you know, like a,
like a boardwalk or something like that.
right.
I'm not saying that would be impossible. It's not something that a residential developer typically does. I could look into that.
Yeah.
I could look into that. I think this would actually be better long-term. I mean, personally, I'm putting in more this way. But I'd have a permit and things like that too. So I'm not trying to say it's
Right.
not easier for me to, from a permitting standpoint, to go this way. This will cost me a lot more probably. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know how deep you'd have to go. You'd have to do a soil boring or something like that to really figure out how deep the muck goes. That wetland's been there a long time.
No, it looks like you're trying really hard to put in a significant amount of bike paths.
Yeah,
But we just have 109th, that's,
I understand.
you know,
Yeah, that's why
It's a-
I'm getting, so there's the one property to the north, and I'm getting a connection at the intersection. So, I mean, the worst case scenario, I mean, and they may have something on their side as well, but worst case scenario is someone drops down and then just comes along White Oak and they're able to make that connection. I'd even add some signage, like public through, you know, be
Right.
glad to do that, something like that, so that people see how to get through.
Right. Any other questions?
what's your thought on something along 109th?
You know me and sidewalks.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a major intersection, right? You got a White Oak and 109th. You know, that corner is something's gonna happen in that corner. And
More than likely a traffic light, John.
yeah, but, you know, it's gonna be a major cross-traffic for pedestrians. Hopefully, there's some commercial in that area. It'd be nice to have pockets of commercial. So, yeah, again, I would like to see a hardship. You gotta tell me, that's my opinion. You gotta tell me John, IDEM permit is gonna take me a year or two and it's gonna cost me X because we just can't give waivers
Yeah.
just because it's a cost issue. And I understand, I mean, the gentleman
It might
before
actually
you.
cost me less, to be honest with you. I mean, really, I'm telling you. So I'm a little bit more worried about long-term maintenance. The permit would take a couple of years, year at least. But I'll put it together and I will present something formally to you. I understand.
And
and that
unfortunately,
might be an issue for the town council, you know,
Yeah.
having a wood structure out there, it's not gonna last like forever.
Yeah,
and
But at
unfortunately,
least we gotta look at it.
I understand. I will put it on paper in writing to you, what I'm proposing and why.
And now for this board, this is like our fourth PUD in the last year, so we've gotten a lot more aggressive.
I understand.
At how we approach these things.
listen.
So, we're gonna, if you wanna, I understand the development side, there's some wetlands in this, so you wanna maximize the number of units that you can develop, and with that reduction of lot sizes, we're looking for some sort of compromise.
Understand.
So we'll work together, and Adam knows our program on what is required in our PUD, and so once that information starts funneling, we'll start reviewing
Okay.
it and looking through it. But you understand sidewalks, you address some of the lots with, I'm, 1 and 2, being up against an existing home, if there's a way to increase the depth, other than that, no other house is touching an existing lot of a current homeowner. So just stuff for us to consider as we work through this process.
I understand. And I went through it quickly because I know you've been here a while, but the architectural commitments that I'm making add substantial value to the homes. And I just want to point that out. I mean, I think that's a good thing too. I know some people are concerned about density and some people are concerned about assessed value. And so I'm trying to hit both those things here. I can't really actually get much more for a 10-foot wider lot. I mean, I really can't, I'm just telling you in the marketplace, but the smart side is worth, maybe 15,000, some of those like 3-car garages are like 16 to 18, sunrooms are 16. So this is adding a lot of things that aren't required of us, and we're committing to them. So hopefully that'll be part of the consideration.
We've gotten smarter as we've been going through this,
Okay.
but yeah. But no, I mean, we'll just have to walk through it, so.
Okay, wonderful.
Awesome.
So at this point, I'm going to formally file. We've gone through some workshops and then start putting together the formal documents for your consideration. Is that right?
Yeah, because we'll need to see in writing, in a document, in a PUZ zoning, because this is all great to have, but we need to get to the, the tooth or meat and potatoes of it to see what actual,
Sure.
The lighting, all the requirements. But yeah, you can start putting it, unless you guys have, besides the depth, I mean,
Can I ask another question? It might be better addressed to council, but sometimes we write our own PUDs, and do you have a standard document, like a base document that you like to work from, or should I present like a full package?
Yeah, so the ordinance itself, I know over the years, it used to be that the developer would propose the ordinance. I think in the last couple of years, the Plan Commission has wanted to have a little bit more control
Sure.
over the ordinance itself. So I have prepared for the commission, as Mr. Chairman indicated, for several PUDs in the last year to 18 months. So if you, really what we're looking for from the developer, I think, are the architectural standards, the dimensions, everything that can be represented with objective concrete standards that you've presented here tonight. We will incorporate that into the ordinance itself. And so the actual ordinance would be drafted by myself or
Okay.
other town council, but that's really what we're looking for.
I understand.
To be included in the ordinance itself.
Work through Sergio, get the information to you to have something formally drafted, and I'll submit a formal.
and
If
Adam,
you have legal counsel, I can certainly,
Yeah.
talk to your
Greg
legal
Bauer,
counsel,
yeah,
so.
okay.
and they have to provide difference in ordinances, right?
Sorry?
Don't they have to provide list of items that are different than our current ordinance allows?
Well, so a PUD requires a development plan. And so development plan does require that they identify what would not otherwise, meet the standards in the zoning classification. So if it's an R2C PUD, which I think is what is being contemplated, then yes, they would have to identify what doesn't meet our standards.
Yeah, so like your housing size meets our standards for
It
the
would.
ranch.
I think it's actually, I looked through it today, I think it's the lot width and the square footage. 'Cause
So
you don't even have a minimum depth, I don't think, the way I
We
read
have,
it.
we have eight, it's
Square
15,
footage
it's
and a
15,
minimum-
it's
right.
15,000 square
15,000,
feet.
That's correct,
yeah.
yep.
So, but minimum 100, but a PUD allows that to change,
Yep.
so. So yeah, it's always good for us to know, so when we're making that decision,
Yep.
to have that in front of
I
us.
think it'd be those two things, and I'll read it again. I think it'd be those two things, and then the sidewalk thing. That's all I'm aware of right now. Once things get reviewed,
Might be corner lots being 20% larger. That might be one.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look at that.
Mr. President, may I make a request, please?
No. I'm just being, Jason, I'm kidding, come on.
Since you're mandating sprinkler systems, could you please insist on a sprinkle meter to be installed at all these locations to keep it separate?
Ooh, that's a great
I
idea.
can look at that. Yeah.
Because we do get people who forget to turn their sprinkler systems off, or the sprinkler head bursts and we have thousands of gallons running down the street, and then they come to the sanitary district to request a reduction of their sanitary credit because it didn't go down the drain. So if we can keep things separate, that would be much appreciated.
Yep.
I have I don't have a meter in, but I got pipe, and I just been bypassing with a tube for free water.
I don't think you're supposed to say that out
Bypass,
loud.
huh?
Yeah, that's allowed for the president of the plan commission.
Is that on record? Is that on record?
Please hit that button.
The button's red.
So no, that's a great point. You know, that's something we learn as we go through these things. So, okay, great. Any other concerns, issues?
Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I grab those samples so that I don't get in trouble with my design center?
Yes.
Oh, man, you wrote all over that, didn't you?
Yeah, I sketched on
Oh, Joe,
Awesome.
Oh, the sample, the other sample.
you might want to take a look at curbs on White Oak and 109th, because there aren't any there now.
Sir? Just one comment, just so you're at the podium.
Gotta wait.
So besides sidewalk, there's no, we have been pushing now for curbs to be installed.
On White Oak.
On
and
White
109th.
Oak. You probably don't have any, there's probably no other curbs there in that area. So,
You
No,
can
there's-
bet with a traffic light at a minimum going in there at White Oak and 109th, curbs will.
We'll go in.
so just for your, so when you're looking at it and you're like, well, there's no curbs, that's another thing we've been,
Sure. So I think I assumed that I would do them on White Oak, and I thought that 109th was included in the road impact fee. I thought 109th was in there.
Doesn't belong to us, belongs to county.
Yeah, I thought that the road impact fee, so when the study was put together for the road impact fee and all the proposed improvements to calculate the fee were included in that, I thought 109th was included in that. If I'm wrong, that's, you know.
Maybe-
I'd have
Maybe
to
it's for
check.
widening the road, but other than that, it has to be an upgrade or an improvement
Right,
in order for any impact money to be applied to it, according to state law.
right.
just no surprises. So just, you might want to see about besides the sidewalk, where now, sometimes people have come in for waiver of curbs and we've.
Yeah.
You know, just FYI too, the White Oak south of 109th does not line up with White Oak to the north of 109th.
I know, I've,
That could be a tricky intersection when the street light or stoplight goes in.
No, I
So how-
understand,
How
yeah.
to configure that, both sides.
God.
I know a good engineer in Michigan City, they'll figure it out.
Who's
I'll
that?
check that road impact fee.
I always
Yep.
wonder where you were.
Yeah, awesome. All right, with that, we're